The Vatican was quiet that morning, draped in golden sunlight, when a small voice asked a question that would echo far beyond its stone walls. It wasn't a cardinal or a journalist. It wasn't a theologian. It was a little girl, 8-year-old Mirabel Vance, daughter of U.S. Senator JD Vance. With innocent eyes and trembling hands, she looked up at the most powerful religious figure in the world and asked something so pure, so direct, it made time pause. Do God really exist? The crowd around her held its breath. Her father froze, his proud posture shifting to something fragile, vulnerable. This wasn't a planned question. It came from a place deeper than politics, deeper than doctrine. It came from a child's honest confusion and longing. Mirabel had been struggling with her faith. Just months earlier, her best friend from school, Lily, had passed away from leukemia. The two of them had prayed every day together, at school, at sleepovers, even in the hospital room. Mirabel believed with every fiber of her tiny being that God would heal her. She had believed until the very end. When Lily passed, something broke inside her. The faith she had been taught, the bedtime prayers she once recited joyfully, now felt hollow. She couldn't understand how a loving God could let someone so good, so full of life, disappear. Her parents tried to explain. Her Sunday school teacher gave her verses, but nothing reached her heart. She didn't need answers. She needed truth. So when her father took her to Rome for a diplomatic trip and arranged a short visit with Pope Francis, she didn't see a world leader. She saw a grandfatherly figure with kind eyes who might finally give her the answer no one else could. As cameras clicked and aides whispered behind velvet ropes, Mirabel walked up quietly during a moment of calm and asked her question. The Pope knelt before her, not out of formality, but humility, and held her hands. There was a silence that felt sacred. Then, gently, he spoke, not just to her, but to the soul of a watching world. "My child," Pope Francis said softly, "your question is the most beautiful prayer I've heard today." He looked into her eyes with deep empathy. Sometimes we ask because our heart is broken, and that's okay. God is not angry when we doubt. He is closest to those who are hurt. He went on to tell her about his own struggles, how, as a young man, he too had wrestled with this question after losing people he loved. "I do believe God exists," he said, "because love exists. Because your pain shows you had someone you loved so deeply, and love never dies. Love is the fingerprint of God." Tears filled Mirabel's eyes, not because the answer was simple or magical, but because it was human. It didn't dismiss her pain or tie it up with a bow. It sat with her in it. Her father, usually composed, wept quietly as Pope Francis held his daughter in a tender embrace. Reporters captured the moment, but even their headlines couldn't contain the raw truth of it. In a world addicted to noise and speed, a child's question and an old man's kindness reminded everyone what faith really means. That clip went viral, not because of the politics surrounding it, but because people from every corner of the globe saw themselves in Mirabel. They saw their own moments of doubt at gravesides, in hospital rooms, in lonely bedrooms, and they felt less alone. Pope Francis's response wasn't a theological thesis. It was a fatherly reassurance that the search for God often begins in our sorrow, and that faith doesn't require perfect answers, only honest questions and open heart. Back home in Ohio, Mirabel began praying again, not because she suddenly understood everything, but because she realized God wasn't afraid of her questions. She started writing letters to Lily in a notebook, and in one entry, she wrote, "I still miss you every day, but now I think God cries with me too. That makes it a little easier." Her innocence touched millions, and churches across America shared the story as part of Sunday sermons. Parents held their children tighter. Teachers paused longer when students shared what they felt. Even atheists and skeptics admitted, whether or not one believes, that moment was undeniably holy. For Senator JD Vance, the moment marked a turning point. He later said in an interview, "Politics is full of noise, but that moment with my daughter, watching her seek the truth with her whole heart, that was the most important moment of my life." He began pushing for more mental health support for grieving children, inspired by Mirabel's journey. The story rippled into legislation, into Sunday conversations, into school assemblies, and into the quiet corners of people's lives. In the end, it wasn't about theology. It was about empathy, about listening, about how a single child's brave question cracked open the hard shell of public discourse and let light in. The question was simple: do God really exist? But the answer, wrapped in compassion, reminded the world of something we often forget. God isn't an equation to solve, but a presence to feel. In doubt, in grief, in love, that's where he's found. And in that moment between a child and a pope, the world remembered. The White House lawn was bustling with activity. It was a bright day filled with music, flags, and families of fallen heroes. But in the middle of patriotic speeches and rehearsed smiles, a single question brought everything to a standstill. 7-year-old Liam Walker, wearing his late father's Army medal around his neck, stepped forward during a meet and greet session with the president. His voice trembled, but his eyes were steady. "If God loves us, why did my dad have to die?" The laughter around the picnic table stopped. The reporters lowered their cameras, and for a brief second the leader of the free world stood stunned, face to face with a pain politics can never fix. Liam's father, Staff Sergeant Elijah Walker, had died in a bombing during a peacekeeping mission just 8 months before. His mother, Sarah, had told him every night, "Your father died a hero." But those words started to lose their meaning when Liam noticed other kids still playing catch with their dads. When Father's Day came and his school asked him to draw his dad, he sat with an empty page for an hour. And when he saw his mum cry silently after every folded lag ceremony, his belief that everything happens for a reason began to crack. He asked his pastor, he asked his teacher, but he needed to ask someone powerful enough to change the world. And to a child, the president was that someone. President Adams knelt down slowly, leveling his gaze with Liam's. The crowd watched in silence. His voice, usually booming in press conferences, softened to a whisper. "Liam," he said, "there's no pain greater than the one you carry right now, and no words will ever be enough. But your question is more honest than anything I've heard today." He placed his hand on Liam's shoulder, steady and warm. "I believe God does love us, but even in that love, we live in a world where people make choices, some to hurt, some to help. Your dad made the choice to protect others, and sometimes love means giving everything for someone else's tomorrow." Liam didn't smile, but he didn't cry either. He simply nodded, as if something heavy had shifted in his small heart. The president stood, wiped his eyes, and addressed the crowd, now visibly moved. "Let this boy's question remind us. We must answer our children with truth, not slogans, with presence, not politics." That clip, filmed by a local news crew, went viral within hours. It wasn't just about grief. It was about how we honor it, how we teach our kids to hold both pain and purpose in the same breath. In the following weeks, schools began hosting courage conversations, where children who had lost parents could speak openly. Churches held vigils not just to celebrate heroes, but to let their children grieve. Liam's mum received letters from thousands of strangers, many of whom had lost loved ones in silence, and now found the courage to speak. And Liam, he began drawing again. In one picture, his dad was standing in a field of stars, watching over him. At the bottom, Liam wrote, "My dad still loves me, and God didn't forget me." Sometimes it takes the unfiltered question of a child to shake a nation's heart awake. It reminds us that real strength is not in pretending all is well, but in sitting with sorrow and still choosing to believe that love somehow survives.